Just prior to breaking ground on a game development studio named Infinity Ward, the lead creatives had to make a very conscious choice and say, we can do World War II better than Steven Spielberg. Not just the most kingly of living American film directors in the 1990s, but also a noted historian of the early 1940s. In just a few short years at the turn of the 21st century, however, the concept of the World War II FPS, World War II GI notwithstanding, was born in Medal of Honor, developed by DreamWorks Interactive, a division of the newly founded film studio. SKG is what you get when you combine the initials of the studio's three powerful founders, and that S for Spielberg. And how was he doing at the end of the 1990s?
And the Oscar goes to Steven Spielberg.
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
And the Oscar for Best Picture goes to Shakespeare in Love.
Hot off of his World War II films combined at 12 Academy Awards, you can see how Steve was itching to explore this obsession in new, unconquered frontiers, and the result was a game that inadvertently contributed to the first-person shooter's maturing phase it found itself in. In contrast to the other shooters of the 90s, it was grounded, historical, slower paced on account of the hardware, but nonetheless the tone accounted for this. Then one thing leads to another, DreamWorks releases Trespasser, and Steven gets cold feet on the whole video game thing. But he still shepherds his firstborn game franchise and finds it at home at 2015 Inc., 15 years prior to their namesake. The resulting product was PC-exclusive Medal of Honor Allied Assault, yet another great game in the series, but it's still far from the definitive interpretation of World War II in interactive form. Once Electronic Arts saw what they were doing, their first instinct was to say, well, what if we scaled this back down to consoles? So the only thing that the sprightly young development studio could do to continue pushing the concept was for half of them to leave and commit to outdoing Steven Spielberg at his own game.
Call of Duty 1 covers.
I mean, the man has spent 10 years placing World War II at the perfect intersection of art and commerce, yet Infinity Ward was born, and so too was 2003's Call of Duty. And the game is, well, it's all right. I've tried playing it several times, but every time I give it a go, I just don't find myself compelled to sit through it. The game is a success in what I perceive to be its goals. It brings new ideas to the table that we all take for granted these days, and it sets itself apart. It made good money, but to compare it against the prior major PC World War II shooter in Allied Assault, tit-for-tat intensity, I take Allied Assault. It's a matter of taste, but I'm definitely not playing it wrong. I'm definitely not playing it, and I'm definitely not wrong. Now, with a proven track record, it was time for the studio to lock down that creativity and iterate, polish, perfect. Launching on PC and the brand new Xbox 360 in late 2005 was the product of such Call of Duty 2. Of every World War II first-person shooter that could be described as generic, Call of Duty 2 wears the Kirkland signature crown. It's bigger, shinier, more intense, and seemingly the same exact game as its predecessor, but the difference is all in pacing, gameplay, and overall feel. Tweaks have been made to the established formula in order to sand down the original title's rougher, exploratory edges for what best serves the kind of boots-on-the-ground experience that Call of Duty 2 is going for. In every situation, ripped from a real-life offensive, the odds are so overwhelmingly stacked against you. People may tend to forget, through the near century of romanticization of Allied involvement in World War II, that the experience was gruesome. It was hellish. Damned near impossible. In the Eastern Theater alone, you had Hitler going on unprecedented levels of fascist conquest, bolstered by Italy, juggling genocide with a Russian meat wall breathing down his army's neck, made up of soldiers who had nothing to lose but their motherland, which meant they were either going to starve or eat a bullet. For Stalin, to describe this broad swath of the world at the time as a powder keg would be underselling it, because the conflict literally split the atom. Millions died, as you may well know. How common was it for veterans to refuse to talk about what they saw over there? No fucking kidding. Call of Duty 2 gets you pretty damn close to feeling an iota of what it might have been like to survive for even 20 minutes before getting your head blown off and your body left to feed the rats. So it's fitting that the game starts you off in the struggle for Stalingrad, the bloodiest of fronts, contrasting nicely against the white snow. You ever want to know what it's like to be put through the meat grinder? Try being a Russian commoner in 1942. This campaign casts you as a soldier more capable. With you at the command, he stands a chance to skirt the astronomically high 36% death rate among his age group. With that in mind, you trudge forward directly from tossing potatoes to tossing potato mashers as the Third Reich has invaded and desecrated your sacred tundra. This campaign focuses on the urban warfare of Stalingrad. From the jump, you're flattening your own buildings just to keep the Germans out in the open. You fight through the streets, repairing crucial communication wires before flushing yourself through a pipe network in order to get the drop on a railroad station. You've got to heave yourself at panzer tanks constantly because you don't have any of those anti-tank rifles lying around. The only way to disable them is by running through enemy fire, slapping down a sticky bomb, careful not to end up like this guy. The theme in this campaign, more so than the others, is reclamation. A near religious amount of significance has been made of Stalingrad in depiction of the Russians' involvement in this conflict. The tenacity that defines that army in the face of the world's deadliest, most inhuman threat to that point. It's a vibe. This campaign focuses on what it's like to root the rats out of your building. It's always messy and close quarters. What's important to remember is, in contrast to the other campaigns, you're not some interloper lending a hand. This is home. You are an entire nation that can only help themselves. So you lay waste to the sickness. You drive it from City Hall and fend off one last desperate push. Then it's curtains on this leg of the journey. You're properly introduced to the pace of the game's combat and what each level is going to expect of you. Aim true and act heroically. It's the only way to win, all the while taking pleasure in using the Russian weaponry. It's a recurring high point of this game that the weapon design is satisfying and directly contributes to the excellent gun battles. Any game that can make bolt actions somewhat fast-paced and not something you're going to want to dump at the beginning of the level gets a gold star from me. The Mosin Nagant fucks, the Kar 98K is right up there, the PPSH offers that chaotic uber Russian spray, the PPS 42 when you can find it, offering precision to go along with that fire rate. The MP40, of course, is a proper tool to be pilfered off your enemies should you need it. But what really takes the cake are the opposing forces' semi-automatic rifles. These really define the campaign for me. The SVT-40 and the Gewehr 43 are just my kind of firearms. They're quick and precise. You don't need anything but a good eye and iron sight to pick off multiple foes in quick succession. This right here is a workhorse of a rifle. This is what you win battles off the back of in the hands of the well-trained common soldier. I love the identical reload animation you get for both of these. Just manhandle that hunk of wood. Stick another magazine in there. Each time, 10 fresh rounds of adjudication. It's what they deserve. Whenever I'm thinking about this game, though, like when I'm staring at the box, I think about the British campaign. Storming the deserts of North Africa, looking to stick something hot up Erwin Rommel's ass, and largely succeeding. It's the conflict that erupted in Egypt in the Second Battle of El Alamein. An introductory night raid pits you against your newest foes, white chocolate Nazis. There's some fun to be had in learning your new favorite bolt action, the Lee Enfield, with some long-distance target practice as more Nazis attack you from all sides, trying to make you take back what you said about them, but it's too late. I already wrote it down on this bullet. Give it a read. In your first daytime skirmish, you're following an armored tank division across open desert as you assault a series of flak guns, and it's here where you're able to engage with one of the best ever video game renditions of a Thompson submachine gun. The fire rate, the stopping power, just enough ammunition in a mag to lay down some hellfire on 3 to 4 white helmets. It never gets old. Fighting in the trenches and bunkers is what the weapon was meant to do, and under your control, it performs perfectly. The MP40 is what everybody likes to talk about, and it is great. I love that little Art Deco submachine gun, but give me a Thompson every day of the week with a boxy mag and 45 ACP. Call of Duty 2 knows what is up, putting this thing in your hands, your little Brit bangers gripping the handle and trigger. El Alamein ends with a seaside desert showdown, Lawrence of Arabia vibes, the last of the flat gun crews destined for death and destruction. A pretty spectacular level, and an apt choice for the demo in that it showcases the absolute upgrade this game is over its predecessor. Call of Duty 2's status is so enduring because it features a tank mission with controls that don't suck 20 years later. The bulk of the British campaign is focused on these intense fights for control over uncomfortably narrow streets of Tunisian towns and fortresses. It's non-stop, grueling fighting in the same way the urban warfare of Stalingrad was enough to age anyone by hundreds of years. You're in pure survival mode the entire time, far away from home, completely different climate, tenaciously stupid enemy, attacks, counterattacks, tanks, more 88s, enough to test the English gentleman in you. A particular ambush has and will test any veteran difficulty run. The American campaign begins in earnest with a beach landing, but it's probably not one you're all that familiar with. At a glance, Point du Hoc looks like suicide. Place yourselves at a massive disadvantage, scaling rock cliffs while the enemy can just lean over the side and spit on you. That's a tough tactical sell, but you do it anyway. In all reality, this phase of the assault was the least costly, but in the game, of course, it feels like the whole fucking world is ending. It's a cool premise. It's on the cover. At the top of the cliff, you're trench clearing and bunker busting with your trusty Thompson and a trio of kick-ass American long guns. In any of these missions, nothing's better than your standard issue M1 Garand, which you use to shoot across the bombed out fields as you clear out those stupid Germans, destroy their big guns, and have to fend off a vicious counterattack because they didn't like that. The open-ended objective mission concept will become something of a Call of Duty mainstay in campaigns to come, and there are some standout examples of it here in the second entry. After Point du Hoc is a small town whose structures are overrun with squatters. It's a nice change of pace when a linear shooter expands the play area and lets you complete objectives in your own chosen order, even if every objective is the same. It does more to enhance the chaotic environment of a town under siege. The British campaign is actually topped off with a set of missions also on D-Day, showing an angle of the British side of the invasion, your avatar now involved in the struggle to capture the town of Caen. Not the one Steven Spielberg is most familiar with. This is a different Caen, clear on the other side of the country, which was another fuck-ass costly battle in a war chock full of fuck-ass costly battles. Caen is somewhat lengthy in scope and heavy in challenge. In conjunction with the African missions, this is what gives the British portion of Call of Duty 2 the edge over the other campaigns, in my opinion. It's stormy in France and there's a lot of liberating to do, so you get another open-ended mission that is equal parts fun and frustrating, especially attempting to clear out that damn church, what with its 2 levels and lack of cover basically anywhere you enter. It's a bottleneck that lays bare this game's reliance on endlessly spawning enemies until you pass some invisible line of progress. This isn't the only place in the game where you can get stuck on harder difficulties, the infamous Call of Duty death loop. Sometimes this design choice stacks a lot of bad luck on top of the player, and you've got little recourse against the veritable clown car of Nazis pouring through empty spawn rooms. I think it's poor design. You could simply populate the level with a lot of enemies or set a spawn limit. Either of those could be just as challenging, but unfortunately, almost every seminal Call of Duty title from this era tends to rely on this. You just gotta power through. The American missions come back to close out the experience, once again having you storm a heavily defended elevated strong point that is Hill 400. The gloomy atmosphere underscores the dire nature of what you and these rangers have been asked to do, and it's truly no small feat to first capture the damn thing and then have to defend it from waves and waves of enemy in some very uncomfortable combat distances. It's about the closest thing you get to just throwing down the gauntlets and duking it out with the Germans. I mean, the whole Hurtgen Forest thing in World War II was basically hell on earth. So it makes sense that this portion of the campaign is Call of Duty 2 at its most desperate. It's terrifically exciting. As every year passes and another Call of Duty releases, I keep coming back to this second entry for how it expands the scale and pace of its loud, large-scale, frenetic firefights without feeling the need to tell a larger, character-driven story that later titles would eventually turn into the series' default mode of storytelling. That has been done very well in multiple future installments, but the Kirkland signature of the generic 2000s World War II FPS is the emphasis on collective, almost anonymous heroism of an entire nation of souls. Whether they're young, cocky farmer boys from the American Midwest, a band of chaps doing the opposite of what their government was known for in faraway countries while their townships are bombed to smithereens, or an emaciated backbone of a massively oppressed populace grabbing hold of a metaphysical kind of patriotism because it's literally the only thing they have left. The power of the common soldier courses through you, the player, as you turn the tide in several major conflicts in the Second World War. I can't think of a better game that just kind of lays it out for you like this without getting into historical fiction. And if it sparks your interest in learning more, there's an entire industry devoted to documenting every last detail of this massive global conflict. My copy of William Craig's Enemy at the Gates literally just came in, but I've also been reading Stephen Ambrose's D-Day, which is a hugely comprehensive account of the necessity, planning, logistics, scale, action, horror, and consequence of the Allied invasion of France. And look, it's point droit. You have Mr. Spielberg to thank for getting this ball rolling way back when, and the developers at Infinity Ward obviously for shaping it into a perfect sphere. Ironically, at the time this video was created, Steve was in the news for pitching to Activision his vision of the forthcoming first ever film adaptation of the game franchise. It is definitely not going to be set in World War II, but the mere suggestion of someone like Spielberg helming a blockbuster Call of Duty feature is something you could only dream of. It's like if Tarantino wanted to adapt Wolfenstein, or Clint Eastwood does Red Dead Redemption, or wait, this is a fun game. So Amy Sherman Palladino should do Stardew Valley. Christopher Nolan could adapt Uncharted, for real this time. Edgar Wright, Left 4 Dead. Chloe Zhao, you already know. Miss Pac-Man. Josh Safdie should do Grand Theft Auto. Ryan Coogler, Wii Sports. Gareth Edwards should do Halo, for real this time. Julia Ducournau, Cyberpunk. Coralie Farja, Diablo. Paul Thomas Anderson, Tetris. Ava DuVernay could do Final Fantasy. Bong Joon-ho could do Earthbound. Steven Soderbergh should do System Shock. Martin Scorsese, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Greta Gerwig should do Doom. Jordan Peele should do Half-Life, except Gordon Freeman is black. He's still silent, and he just raises a single eyebrow in stoic befuddlement at every supporting character in plot development. Joseph Kosinski, come on, man, it's time. Mario Kart movie. I think Emerald Fennell should do Mass Effect. Just make it about sex and class. David Fincher should do Metal Gear Solid. Aaron Sorkin, definitely Skyrim. Catherine Bigelow should do a Battlefield film to compete with the Call of Duty movie. Or, hear me out, Ryan Murphy's Sid Meier's Civilization. Just roll all of those individual American love, crime, horror, sports story anthologies into one big anthropological epic of humanity itself. Like I was saying, Spielberg in a Call of Duty movie makes for a perfect match, but his pitch was rejected by Activision, so we'll never know. But at least we can always return to the relative beginning where his influence is still felt and enjoy an uncomplicated, uncompromising sequel. Call of Duty 2 is a classic.